Hi, I'm Kamel Fisher coming to you live from the 14th edition of the LD Micro Conference in Bel Air, California. And with me, I have the CEO of enCore Energy Inc. with the ticker ENCUF, Mr. Paul Goranson. Did I say that correctly?
You did.
Fantastic. Paul Goranson, welcome.
Thank you.
Just to jump straight into it, please give us an overview of enCore Energy and exactly what you guys do.
Sure, we're a uranium development company, and we've got properties that we're going to be bringing into production. We expect to have that done by 2023 to begin initiating production in a uranium market that seems to be heading in the right direction as far as incentivizing new production. We're also in the process. We'll expand our production over beyond 2023, and we're also growing the company not only organically by developing our properties that we have. We're also doing transactions as well. So we just announced in September a transaction to acquire a company called Azarga Uranium, which brings in additional assets that are near term and well advanced to bring into production. They'll nicely dovetail into our current production plans, which are based starting in Texas, a very friendly place, business-friendly place to operate and develop. We're focusing on in situ recovery, which is a solution mining of uranium, if you're not familiar with it, which allows us to reduce our capital expenditures, so there's not a significant amount of cost associated with developing these properties, but also we have a very low impact on the environment. So when we're done mining, the environment basically looks exactly like it did before. There's no pits, no shafts, no waste rock piles or anything. It's all done in situ, and that means in place. So we're going to, once we get the Texas properties up and running, we'll also be advancing the properties that we're acquiring through Azarga, which is in South Dakota, and then follow on that with a Wyoming project. And of course, our long-term strategy is our dominant position in New Mexico, where we have well over 100 million pounds that are in historic resources that we expect to be exploiting over a period of time. So that's kind of a nutshell of our 10-year strategy, is to be the next premier producer in the U.S.
Fantastic. Just to take a step back, can you give us a little overview of the history and how this all came about?
Sure. Well, enCore's been around since 2009. But it's actually built out of, it's actually a brainchild of some of the people who really made it big in the last run-up in the uranium price, last cycle. And that's our executive chairman is one of the co-founders of the Energy Metals, that they started at a $10 million market cap, and eventually, within 30 months after 5 mergers and acquisitions, sold for $1.8 billion. To a company called Uranium One. And our executive chairman is Bill Sheriff. He's been around the industry for quite a while. I came from a different pathway. I've been in the business for 30 years. And so they brought me on board last October because from 2009 until 2020, the company was basically dormant because uranium prices were extremely low, and it was focused on reducing cost and cash burn. But we saw a dramatic change in the market, where it's moving from a supply-dominated market to a demand-dominated market.
Right.
And as a result, we see that that's going to create sustainable uranium prices, and demand is going to bring about a need for new uranium production. And that's the reason why that case is that production's declined significantly, particularly since 2017. But nuclear fuel demand has gone up as more and more reactors are operating now, and even before the Fukushima incident back in 2011. So it's an interesting time, and actually the market's actually moving a little faster than we thought it would. So that's a good thing too. Always keep you on your toes.
Right. 100%. So you mentioned there was a slowdown in recent years. How did COVID impact the business?
It actually brought some, our business wasn't directly impacted because we're not in operation right now, but the industry was impacted significantly.
Right.
So the largest producers are Cameco out of Canada. They had to shut down their big mine up in Canada because of COVID.
Right.
And then the Kazakhstan is another one, and they were impacted by supply chain issues. Because people can't work and deliver commodity, chemicals and everything else they need. So they had to slow down their development as well. So
Right.
it's had an impact on the uranium industry.
I bet, yeah. We want to know, have you utilized your acquired 200 pounds of the physical uranium?
We actually acquired 300,000 pounds.
Okay.
And yes, we did. When the price started moving,
Yeah.
we sold high.
Yeah.
We bought low, sold high as the price started moving up. And that helped us. We didn't sell it all. We still have some 100,000 pounds in inventory. We're going to hang on to that for a while. But what it did is that it gave us enough cash to get through this transaction we're going through. We're acquiring Azarga, and allows us to be cashed up to where we can execute on our development plans into 2022 without having to go out and do a significant financing right off the bat. And so that's gives us a leg up, allows us to move fast. We don't have to wait on anything.
Right. 100%. So any challenges facing you in the near and perhaps long term that you can address?
So there's a couple of challenges we see out there. One is finding people. We're already feeling some of the pressure because when you go into production, you not only need technical people like engineers and geologists and everything else, you also have to have operators, the trades and everything else. And that's where we're seeing the biggest pressure. There's a lot of competition for trades. And the other thing is that principally, the one thing that's keeping me awake right now is some of the supply chain issues that are going on. And I don't see it impacting us, but it's always one thing we're trying to mitigate by buying early, buying what we need, inventorying it so we don't have to go hunt it down later. That's some of the biggest things I see as impacting our business.
How do you go about, solving that?
Well, one of the things we're doing is that when we acquired a company called Westwater, their assets at the end of 2020, we already got a trained workforce with it of about 22 people. What I'm doing right now is leveraging their talent and their experience to bring in people who may not have the training, to bring them in early and start training them early and building a cadre of people up. So it's a little bit slower process, and I can just go get someone who's available right now, but it provides a sustainable way of building up a workforce. I've done this before. This is not my first rodeo.
Good.
Starting from scratch and having to hunt down people. It's just, uranium mining is not something you go to college for, or there's a school of uranium mining. You've got to train people on how to do it. So there's a lot of skills required for it, but it's just a matter of finding the right people who want to do the work, and we're having some success. We'll probably start hiring in earnest probably in mid-2022. So we're kind of building the ground game to mitigate that.
Wonderful. I like that you mentioned this is not your first rodeo. Tell us a bit about your business background and where it all started for you.
Sure. Well, believe it or not, I thought I was going to get rich in the oil field in 1986, and the oil field collapsed. And so I got hired by a uranium company where I didn't even know they mined uranium in Texas. And brought in as a reservoir engineer, and I did that. I've been in the business since 1987, and working for both junior mining companies, for privately held companies, and multinationals, and some of the largest companies in the world. And I've been around. You would think I would have a employment risk, but it's really when you're in the business and you know your job really well, people want you and you're in demand. So I've been doing that for quite some time. I think where I kind of made my signature effort was back in 2005. I constructed and started up a uranium project down in South Texas. It was privately held, and got that into production. It was the first new production in the world of uranium at that point. It was responding to the market uptick, and I was producing uranium and able to sell it immediately on the spot market through auctions and raising the price up. So I actually have the notoriety or the reputation. I sold uranium at the peak at $133 a pound. And of course that peak didn't last very long, but it was a lot of fun doing that and setting the price, and it creates a reputation. But that's one of the things why I was intrigued when I joined. enCore is kind of right at that point when I joined them, was where I wanted to be to restart and do that again.
Right.
I like not pardon pun, but it's like my encore in my career, you know.
Wonderful. I love the play on words there. So is this, or have you before been the CEO or involved with a public company? As
Yes,
such?
I have. I've been an senior executive with Cameco Corp.
Right.
I was with Your Honor, it's Energy Corp. I was the chief operating officer and president. And with Energy Fields, my most recent employment was as the chief operating officer for them.
Awesome. In terms of investor relations and just activating that market, are there any plans in place, if you can speak to that?
Yeah, we've got plans in place. We've bulked up our investor communications. Got a really active social media campaign
Good.
going, and we've worked with some of the investor relations folks to build our brand, and we think it's been pretty successful. Where do we go after that as our acquisition? Sky's the limit, I think. I just don't, we haven't really thought that far in advance. I've been so focused on the operational side and development side, as well as the transactions, to make sure everything goes smoothly, that I've allowed our executive chairman to kind of deal with the public company stuff, and that's his specialty. We trade off. I think we're a good team together on that side.
Wonderful, wonderful. Just, a takeaway for investors who may be watching or potential investors. What do you want them to take away from this interview?
Well, first of all, yes. And so my takeaway is that even though the price, our equity has gone up in price, and you see all the market caps of the uranium companies moving up dramatically, I don't think we're done yet. And the reason why I say that is that the uranium price is only hit close to $50 a pound, and there's a lot of upside to go.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's opportunities continuing,
Right.
and so I just see it as there's a lot of room to grow. And don't worry, just because you didn't get the very bottom doesn't mean you don't have an opportunity to grow as well.
100%, 100%. Well, everything sounds really exciting about this natural resource. Just in closing, I'd like to remind the viewers about enCore Energy Corp, and the ticker is ENCUF. Thank you so much for joining
Sure.
me, and we'll jump straight into the next phase.
Sure.